Right. So Niles writes, I am worried about an upcoming recession and how it will impact my business. I run a multi-location building materials business that has been doing well, but I'm starting to see signs that things are slowing down. I've been listening to your shows about preparing for that slowdown. My question is, how do I prepare my employees for what may be coming without freaking them out and causing undue anxiety or causing them to start looking for jobs elsewhere? I don't know yet how we will be impacted, easy for me to say, or even if we will, but I'm worried. Thanks for the show and the advice. What do you think, man?
I think it's a great question. You know, we talked a bit about this in the recent show, but now, I think the first thing is great that you're actually thinking about this. And I would say a couple things. One, when things start to slow down, employees usually often know it before even you do. You know, they're often they're on the phones, they're on the front lines, they're loading orders, they're dealing with, customer service stuff. So you may be surprised, but they're going to have a sense of how things are going already. But I think you can be open and transparent and really authentic. Your second part of your question here, where it says, you know, I don't want to cause undue anxiety. I don't want to freak anybody out. You can have that conversation with your people. You can say, look, hey, I wanted to touch base. I know you've been reading a lot in the news about, you know, are we in a recession? Are we not? How it's going to be, you know, could we be impacted? And I think it's an okay topic to bring up, and maybe you bring it up in a casual environment instead of I'm calling an all hands meeting where people get kind of nervous. If you've listened to the show before, you know I love the Friday barbecue or lunch concept, which you're kind of flanking everybody. It is really a meeting that you're having. Yes, you're providing food, or even better if you're cooking it for them, but you have an opportunity to, you know, everybody kind of relaxes and they're off their guard a bit. And so you can have these discussions and be like, hey, I want you to know I've been watching those things too. And I'm not sure if we're going to be impacted, but I want to let you know that I will keep you posted how things are going. And hopefully it won't impact us. And maybe it will even help us. You know, we've talked a lot about ways to improve your business when things slow down. And some industries do better than others. You know, you're in a building material. Well, maybe it's a shift to, if your customers are more contractors, maybe it's a DIY, department you could get going to help homeowners that or be holding on to their money tighter, but doing more of the work around their house themselves. So there's some opportunities there.
Yeah, I you know, the thing that kind of jumped out at me was, you know, I don't want to freak them out. I don't want to cause them undue anxiety. I don't want to cause them to start looking for another job. I think the thing that would be most likely to cause any of those three reactions would be not talking about this. To your point, Shannon.
The unknown.
Yeah, the unknown. They know that something's going on. Like you said, they've heard it somewhere. I'm reminded of when, you know, we were, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 weeks into pandemic lockdown. So maybe beginning of April 2020. And of course, as soon as it all started, I started, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what do we have? What kind of runway do we have with the businesses? If income stops, how long does it actually make sense for us to keep people employed before we start laying people off? And, you know, all of those things. And of course, I didn't know about any of these disaster loans or payroll protection because they hadn't been conceived yet, or at least not rolled out yet, you know. And so everybody was figuring it out. And I looked at everything in the businesses and I felt pretty good. I'm like, oh, well, we've had a good year leading up to this. We've got some extra cash. Thankfully, we haven't spent it on growth yet. Let's not do that. Let's hold on to it while we figure out what's going on. Yeah, I can keep people employed. I knew that I could do it I knew I could do it for a year. And then it hit me one day where I thought, wait a minute, the staff doesn't know anything that I know. Like there's no way. All those things I just said, they're in my head. I'd shared them with my business partners, but that's that's as far as it went. I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like, I got to let these people know immediately. And it turned out to be a Friday at our staff meeting. Now, it could have easily been a Tuesday. That it just hit me that Friday morning. Like, whoa, crap, I got to talk to these people. Like, this is super important because I know they know. And of course they did, because how could you not? Like, we were all in, we had talked about lockdowns. Obviously, we've been experiencing this. It's a little bit different than a recession. But still, everybody knew, and they were very relieved just to have the conversation. They were astonished when I told them that we were going to, I told them 3 months. I knew I had at least 6, maybe 12 of runway. I'm always conservative with what I, quote unquote guarantee. It was not a guarantee, but I know it was received that way. So I'm very careful about that. And I told them, I said, look, we've got at least 3 months to keep everybody on board. And they all said, they're like, at our current salaries. And I said, yes. And,
that's great.
And they said, oh, we had talked amongst ourselves and decided that if we could reduce, I think they said 20%, just to keep everybody, we would rather do that than have you lay off, people to cover costs. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Obviously, I didn't use that against my employees. That would be a bad sign. I wasn't interested in it. But, it was one of those things where like, oh, not only have they been thinking about it, they've been talking about it with everyone except me.